Games like the one you are about to see exemplify the reason why I love playing World of Warships Legends. I know, I love this game. What a spicy take these days, right? There is so much negativity, it feels like, in this community, and so much criticism leveled at this game, some of it fair, some of it fairly ridiculous and fantastical, that I thought we should take a look at a game that really reminds us, or at least reminds me, why I enjoy playing this game 4 years into its lifespan. And the reason comes down to because this is at root a strategy game. It is a chess match, despite the amount of players that like to treat it like checkers. And when things are firing on all cylinders and everything is going as it should, the choices of each individual player add up to contribute to a certain outcome, whether that is victory or defeat. And the choices that me and my teammates make in this game, well, I'll walk you through them, and they do lead to a certain consequence which I won't spoil for you. Although this match may look familiar to you because I did play it live on a stream some time ago. Nevertheless, what's the opening situation? Well, we spawned here on the western flank of Two Brothers. We've citadeled to Kutuzov. We're trying to citadel of Fiji, and I think failing in that endeavor. And we've only got ourselves in the Tier 7 French cruiser Charles Martel, along with another cruiser that has come with us toward the flank. One battleship looks like he's going to go up the center, another battleship is hanging back in the base, and the rest of our team have taken the eastern flank, led by the single friendly destroyer we have. So we are on essentially the weak side. We have no vision here because the destroyer's on the other side, and we've sort of been forced to do what I want to avoid doing, particularly in the Charles Martel, which has pretty poor concealment on this build for a cruiser. It's 12.2 kilometers by sea, and we've been forced to spot with our face. Ideally, we want the destroyer to be doing the spotting for us, or potentially a stealthier cruiser than us, but that's not the hand we were dealt, so we have to play a little bit differently. And we recognize the enemy is trying to push this flank, so what we're trying to do is play passively, conserve our HP, not play too aggressively, not sink very early, and instead dissuade the enemy from pushing too aggressively on this flank, because in reality, it's just me and that other cruiser here, and we've seen the Champagne, we've seen a Scharnhorst, and we've seen two other cruisers, a Fiji and a Kutuzov. Ideally, or theoretically anyway, these four ships could make short work of me and the other cruiser. They could just push straight in, and they would overwhelm us with their firepower. And besides, the cruiser is now retreating, so we need to be careful. We need to maintain our presence on this flank. We need to continue pumping out damage against these guys, but ultimately what we need to do is stall them so that our teammates on the other side, which I guess you could consider our strong flank, can push through. What we want them to do is get to the enemy base and enter it to start capturing it or at least contesting it, and that way the enemy team on this side of the map, the three ships or more that are chasing us, will be forced to respond to the activity in their base. Of course, this play is not developing quite the way I want it to. The friendly destroyer is pushing into the enemy destroyer, but you can see that the enemy destroyer is actually right next to a cruiser in the base. So good on the friendly destroyer, it's able to take out the enemy one, but he's also going to lose his ship in the process. After all, he is sitting right next to a cruiser. And there he goes. You generally don't want your destroyer dying in the first 5 minutes, but the best that can be said for our Udaloy is that he took the enemy destroyer with him, so it was an even trade. Both teams have lost one ship, and both teams have the same amount of cap points. Meanwhile, Vladivostok has joined the proceedings over here on this flank, and that Vladivostok is going to be key going on later in this game. You'll see it when it happens, but I would actually say the Vladivostok on the enemy team is really the MVP here. In any case, we've only got a single battleship with us, and then there is one other battleship sort of near the back of our base by a rock that's just sort of been sitting there this whole game. He's not going to end up being much of a threat to this entire fleet of enemy ships that are pushing in. You can see they're focused on the single battleship right in front of them, and while he can bow tank them for maybe a few moments and stay floating, perhaps he can even get a few key shots on some of these cruisers, he's not going to survive for long. He does manage to take out the Heinrich, which is great, and I think he's also taken out the Fiji earlier on, but with this many ships shooting at him, there's just no way he can withstand this kind of firepower, and it's only a matter of seconds before they take him out. Meanwhile, we're just trying to spread the love around with our HE, burn some people, spread the fires. That Vladivostok is on way too pristine health. We'd like to focus him down a little bit and start removing some of those hit points. The Champagne has been ignoring us for the better part of this game, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but I'm not really going to complain. Meanwhile, there are one battleship left in our base. I don't know if that guy was AFK or what, but he was just sitting by that rock, and the Kutuzov ends up taking him out, leaving the last remaining battleship in our base near the channel. And I think these guys actually have shots on him. He is what appears to be flat broadside to them, so he's not going to be surviving for much longer. And meanwhile, we've run out of map real estate here. We've crashed straight into the border. We are now doing the T-Bull shuffle, and we get hit by the Vladivostok, not for a citadel, but for most of our hit points. We're now down below half health, and at this point, it's pretty clear that we aren't going to be surviving. The Champagne has now entered our detectability range by sea, so we're perma-hard spotted here against the map border. All we can really do is turn around and hope that we won't die in the process. But the Scharnhorst goes down, so just the Champagne and the Vladivostok are over here, along with the Kutuzov further out. Champagne is tunnel visioned on the last remaining friendly battleship inside of our base, so we're going to be able to get some pretty good damage on him. He is, after all, a French battleship, so he's coated in 32 millimeters of armor, which means our HE can do an awful lot of damage to him, and maybe if he's not paying attention, he'll take these torpedoes, but something prompts him to slow down, which is pretty annoying. He gave no indication that he might start doing that, and to be fair, it might have been the fact that I was shooting at him. Maybe I should have shot at the Vladivostok, who nearly takes me out over there, but not quite. Champagne misses the torpedoes, and at this point, well, we know we're dead. One single shot from one of these enemy ships is going to end up taking us out. So the best thing we can do is launch these torpedoes in a last-ditch effort and maybe shoot this Champagne a little bit more. He's the closest to our base, so if we can take him out, hopefully that delays the amount of time it takes for the enemy team to get into our base. Meanwhile, the friendlies have gotten into the red base and are starting to flip it. The problem is the Kutuzov over there, and in retrospect, I almost wonder whether I should have tried to take him out rather than the Champagne, and you'll see why. In the meantime, we've got torpedoes running toward the Champagne. I don't actually think they're going to hit, but on the other side of the map, there is one battleship with low health in the base. Another battleship is entering it from the channel, and our last remaining cruiser is on the eastern flank, heading toward the red base. So they have no vision of what's going on over here, but that's okay. The Champagne has now entered the base. Clearly the torpedoes are not going to find him, but as of this moment, my team is ahead. They entered the red base before the Champagne got into ours, so they've got it almost half-capped. The problem is, here is this Brandenburg sitting in the mouth of the channel, which I don't necessarily think is a great idea. If one of these battleships gets to the mouth of the channel, it's going to see this Brandenburg, and it's going to be able to shoot and reset him. So I don't know that I'm a fan of this positioning, not trying to pick on this player or anything. I think I understand what he's trying to do, which is be in a position to reset the enemy team if they get spotted inside of our base. But you got to take a look at the situation here. We've got the cap 3/4 taken. So all we have to do is sit on it for a few more minutes without getting reset ourselves, and then we win the game. And we see a red plane pop up in the mouth of the channel near our base, so we know that the Champagne probably is over there. He gets spotted by the plane of our Brandenburg or by the Brandenburg's face, I don't know. But he gets the reset on the Brandenburg, which takes our capture progress down a little bit and prevents us from winning the game quicker. So a little bit of maybe a mistake, but on the other hand, backseat captaining, I don't know. I'm already dead, so what can I say? The Kutuzov then comes around the corner, and I think even if that Brandenburg hadn't been shot and reset, this Kutuzov still would have made this move and would have been able to get the resets in. So this is a big problem. Now that we've been reset, the enemy is ahead of us, or will be ahead of us on capture points. Actually, they're not. We're still ahead of them. So hopefully this Kutuzov goes down very quickly. The Strasbourg got a great hit on him. The Brandenburg is not doing quite as much damage, but with this shot, nope, still not quite. He's still alive. And our cruiser is actually pushing up the mouth of Two Brothers toward the Champagne. The cruiser is a Baltimore, and normally this kind of thing wouldn't work out because the Champagne has 16-inch guns, which can just go right through the Baltimore's bow, but for whatever reason, the Champagne has decided that HE is the shell to shoot, so he's not able to take down the Baltimore before the Baltimore gets in the ram. And now it's 2 battleships versus 1. The last remaining enemy ship is that MVP Vladivostok, and he's got our base about half capped. He has much more progress than we do on their base, and our Brandenburg is actually sailing straight out of the enemy base. The Strasbourg is telling him to get back, which, I don't know, it might be the proper play, but at this point, you have to reset the Vladivostok, because he's going to capture our base before we ever capture his. So Strasbourg, in the center of the enemy base, is now pushing up. We know the Vladivostok is sort of sitting in the mouth of the channel there, so Strasbourg can get vision, maybe he can get the reset. But the problem is he's not going to get vision and get the reset and still cap the base. At this point, the only thing to do now is to push straight into that Vladivostok. So that's what the Strasbourg is doing, in part because that Brandenburg has left the base and is attempting to flank the Vladivostok by going around the eastern flank and coming toward the eastern side of our cap circle. So Strasbourg has nearly reached the mouth of the channel. He's got a plane in the air in hopes that he'll spot the Vladivostok, but it's not going to happen. He's going to have to spot that Vladivostok with his face, or maybe with his plane. I don't know. He spots the Vladivostok, he gets the reset, and now he's going to push straight into the Vladivostok, which honestly I don't think is that bad of a move. The Vladivostok still has much more capture progress than the Strasbourg. He's never going to outcap the Vladivostok. The problem, though, is that the Strasbourg has 26 millimeters of armor everywhere, and the Vladivostok has 16-inch guns, so no matter what, the Strasbourg cannot bow tank the Vladivostok. He's just going to get chunked right through the bow if he pushes into him. But maybe, just maybe, he is at full health, or near enough. Maybe, if he plays his cards right, he can run straight into the Vladivostok and even ram him. In any case, he's committing. He's about to leave the enemy base and enter the mouth of Two Brothers. There's less than 2 minutes left to go, and this is the deciding move in this victory, or in this game. Either victory or defeat is coming. The Brandenburg, which flanked, gets a great hit on the Vladivostok with a citadel, and I think nearly takes him out. He's trying to hide behind this island and keep himself unspotted, but take a look at the points. We are ahead on points, 396 versus 288. All this Brandenburg has to do is survive for the next 45 seconds, and we actually win. But the Brandenburg is on such low HP. Vladivostok is not, well, I guess he is paying attention to the Strasbourg. He overmatches him through the bow. It's not enough to take him out, of course. So his best hope is to get shots on the Brandenburg, who really, really should be hiding behind that island and not trying to come out and get shots on the Vladivostok or anything like that. We are going to win in the next couple seconds, especially if this Strasbourg is able to get the ram. But Brandenburg reverses, gets himself spotted behind that little island, and now the Vladivostok is reloaded. He takes out, or he's about to take out the Brandenburg, and that ends the game. Moments away from our victory. So, a bit of a heartbreaker, yes. Fairly disappointing. GG's to everybody involved. But a game that was decided in the final seconds. Even though it ended in our defeat, I think it was a pretty entertaining game to watch and a fun game to play and observe after I had sunk, and it exemplifies the reason I enjoy World of Warships Legends so much. So I hope you enjoyed this game. If so, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.